Okay, we are back with Crossing the Axis, the biz side of video production. I am your intrepid host, Max Kaiser, the CEO of Pipeline Video Production Management Software, the software that will get your shit together if you are a video production company with budgeting, scheduling, all kinds of tasty little nuggets to hold you together. Check it out at videopipeline.io if you want to rocket your company into humongous success. Someone who already, though, has been humongously successful in this industry and is my guest today is John Sherman of StoryFarm out of Baltimore, Maryland. John's company works with, I mean, if you go on his website, storyfarm.com, you will, the logo soup is like eight rows deep of companies: MasterCard, Exxon, McDonald's, Uber, UPS, Pepsi. And they also have won an insane amount of awards with Addies coming out of their behind. Emmys, they have 16 Emmys. So next time you get one Emmy, just remember there's companies out there getting 16 of them. They've actually won a Peabody. They just have a tremendous body of work, which you can see on their website. They have beautiful videos. They have a recent video they did on sexting, which is it actually is just incredibly fantastic. I'm making both my teenage kids watch it. They do so much. They do so many different categories of types of films, from animated to a category that they may have invented called the milestone film, which if you're looking for a new category to work from, I would highly encourage you to go take a look at that, because it's a pretty cool idea. But they've learned, like the rest of us, to skin the cat in a lot of different ways, but they've done it really successfully, and they've done it together as a team. There's an incredible team at StoryFarm that uniquely is in-house and has built on some very long, deep friendships. And I'm really excited to talk about this sort of evolution of the production company and what a production company can look like today that has just sort of held together. But before we do, let's meet John. John, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me, Max. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And tell us a little bit about, I know you came from the reporting side of it. You came from journalism, right?
Yeah. We, we're not film school guys, or at least the sort of founders and partners are not, came from a van down by the river doing the TV news, and did that for 12 years. And it was about 2008, 2009. We saw HD video for the first time in the newsroom on a computer monitor. And it was I'll never forget, it was like a bee on a flower. And I was like, oh my God, every website is going to have video on it. Who's going to make all this video? Why shouldn't it be us? We won a Peabody and all this stuff, for video storytelling. Why shouldn't it be us? And so in 2009, we started the company, and here we are all these years later, been doing really, really well.
Yeah, they have been doing really well. John was sharing with me some of his top line numbers. They're doing about 2.5 million this year. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And they also have been having a pretty good net with that, which is, we talked about in a couple of our other podcasts about making a profit is really important. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. But just to point out that they're doing financially just fine. But they've done it together. And when you said you started in 2009, what was that original team that you started with?
So it was originally just me and Bo Kershaw, who is our director of photography and my partner for all this time. And it was he and I in a TV news van, and we started the company, and for a year, in the first year and a half of the company, we would be in the news van at like a murder scene, and we would have finished the news package and done whatever, and we'd be working on StoryFarm.
Oh man, that's cool. And then you add. And then you, I don't know why that sounds vaguely dirty, but I
mean, I don't, the ethics of it may be a little bit dubious. If I was the employer, I might want their time. But I mean, the flip side of that is if you've ever hung out in a news van at a murder scene, once the work is all done, there's really not much to do. So you can sort of do what you want to do.
Hey, I'm not judging. But so, and then you added, so you had yourself and Bo, and then you added Dan as sort of a development a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. So, our first hire was really a sales guy.
Yeah.
And it was Dan, we
Yeah.
brought him in as a partner, and he had been doing creative agency staffing for like a decade before. So he had all kinds of contacts at ad agencies, marketing companies that he had placed at high, low levels,
Oh, good pickup.
and just had a really deep network. And he was sort of like, what if I took my network and did something else with it? And it
Yep.
was, obviously we're, 10 years later, it's been super successful. We love them.
Yeah, no, that's what's incredible. Okay, so folks, this is sort of my thing is talking about a company where these friendships have gone on for a long time. I've hung out with these guys, full disclosure, at some different meetups and stuff around the country, and it's been really fun to be with them and see how well they gel together. It reminds me of my team that I had at my old company, Handcrank. But unlike what we did at Handcrank, where we ultimately decided that it was just going to be the sort of principles and we were just going to hire everybody else on demand, which is the way so many companies have been going. In fact, I think we just talked with Guy Bauer, and he sort of made that pivot. John and his team has sort of kept with a more traditional model of keeping the company, keeping folks in-house. Tell us about your team. Tell us about how you work a little bit.
Sure. So there's 14 people full-time at StoryFarm right now. We're down one. It might be 13. We have a seat to fill in the animation department. But when we're at full staff, we have 4 animators full-time. We have 2 producers full-time and thinking about a third as well. We have 2 or 3 DPs, and they edit as well. And so, our production team is like 5 or 6 people. The animation team is 3 or 4 people, and, producers. And then I'm sort of like executive producer on a lot of different projects. I do a lot of the writing. And then we have a super incredible chief creative officer, Andrew Fetchko, who is a film school guy and really, just brings a tremendous amount of firepower to StoryFarm.
Yeah. And so tell us about how does it, I'll just get right to it. Like, I think everyone's concern with having a roster that big is that they're feeding the beast all the time. And how do you get around that? How do you make the most of this? What are the, let's just talk, I think we all kind of know that's the disadvantage, but let's talk about the advantages of having a cohesive internal team.
Yeah. I mean, it's, so I think it starts with honestly, my roots in news, and really always like a newsroom. There's a lot of bad things about a newsroom, but a newsroom is like a very vibrant place. It's a fun place to be, to hang out in. Like, you make a lot of really deep friendships. It's sort of like you're on a sports team or going to war with a bunch of people, because what you're doing is just so ridiculous. And so it really brings people together. So I wanted to sort of like have this culture, and we came to, advertising and production through the side door. We didn't really know what we were doing. So I've just been trying the whole time to make this sort of culture. And so we hired people full time in a world where, a lot of times people are mainly freelance, and sort of grew out our teams that way. And fortunately, we've been able to, be productive enough in the new business department to be able to support the team as we've grown it. That is the key to it, because nobody wants to have like 6 people hanging out with nothing to do, in your company. That's not good. So it is about feeding the beast. And there, there's a few times when there might be a little slack in the line, but there's also other times when we're just firing on 16 cylinders, and everybody is working extra days and late hours, and so it all evens out.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I remember. I think I always look back and I think everyone that I knew on our Handcrank team after we broke up always said those were the days, basically. As tough as it was to keep everyone together, it also was the most fun by far. And we definitely had that esprit de corps and that sense of being in the trenches together that you just simply don't get. I think I watched your Zoom video about the team trying to come up with a reel. And
Yeah.
making reels, as we all know, is like the worst thing. I mean, we'd all rather have our eyes gouged out and our fingernails pulled than have to make a reel. And watching the team sort of agonize over it collectively via Zoom, it was awesome. Like that's a great, I mean, I know you guys just put it up there for fun. It's not really your reel, but it was really good. It really, if I were a client, first of all, I love it when a company shows a little bit under the skirt, and I think that it just made me really feel like, wow, it's a very flat organization was my feeling. Like it's not super top down.
Yeah.
Although you talked more than most in it, but I think, but I did feel like everybody's voice was so evenly heard. And yet you also kind of had to agonize together, which when it comes to making a reel, for anyone that's ever sat alone in a room, in a dark editing room and tried to come up with a reel, it seemed really like, oh man, that would have been nice to have everybody to just agonize together with. So I love that you did that. And I would encourage folks to go take a look at that if you want to see what we're talking about. Like it's kind of a great example of exactly what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you like I think there's something really sort of special and precious and magical about business. And when you give someone a job or when someone hires you to do a job, like, they've selected you, you've selected them out of everything out there in the universe. And, it's really super special.
Well, it strikes me that for StoryFarm, the journey is a lot of the goal. I mean, it seems like the daily life of being at StoryFarm and having the team and having the office and working together is a lot of where you're going on a daily basis. And that certainly was like, I remember meeting with you guys like 5 years ago, right? And Handcrank, we were always like super like, what's our numbers? Where are we going? What's our plan? And all that. And like, you were all at dinner together with you guys. And I'm like, well, what's your plan? What are you guys do? You're like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, that's I mean, we're not film school guys. We're not business school guys. Like I've never, been like, for the next 3 to 5 years, I project we will be doing this. You know what I mean?
I know. And yet it's worked. I mean, it's like, I think that you've, and I think it's also, I hate to say it, but in our crazy lunatic business, it's actually a very sane way of living. Because otherwise, the vicissitudes are so great. Like one thing that John shared with me before the call was that, like the rest of us, the last year, their top line number was quite a bit lower than this year. And the year before had been, quite high. And so the vicissitudes are still there for StoryFarm.
Yeah.
But
oh yeah. And I mean, it's like
on for.
Yeah, we don't have any retainer business, right? We start at zero every month. So
retainers don't work. I don't know if have you ever tried them?
We've danced around with a couple of different strategies around it, but really, no, we've never, it's never really.
The Chris Rock song, "There's No Sex in the Champagne Room." Have you ever heard that? Oh, dude, it's so freaking awesome. It's basically Chris Rock trying to sing to people like, coming up, guys that are like, yeah, I'm going to keep putting money in the strippers' outfits. And eventually I'm going to get to that champagne room. And he just is like, that never happens.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've been there. It never happens. Retainers, I was saying for our listeners, I met with a guy a couple of weeks ago that was like, I got the whole retainer thing worked out. And I'm like, it won't work. They will hate you. You will hate them. And you basically, they can't do enough work to make the payments work out. You're not a lawyer. And so I just want to tell everyone, no sex in the champagne room, retainers don't work. And you're welcome to email me about that if you want. We can do a whole show on why retainers will never work. But it seems like every production company I see at about 5 years decides they're going to have a package retainer deal that's brilliant. If only I could get the money to even out. If only I could get it to even out.
Yeah.
Well, you can through a lot of work in different ways, but that's not the way.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, I had to go on that tangent, but you're right. No. You don't have retainers. And so there is this, I guess what I'm saying is you just have a very healthy every day is what it's going to be attitude. And a lot of the folks that I've seen thrive in our industry have that attitude. And some of the attitude that you read in the business books, it's like, yeah, but you don't know where I live.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine who started his own business this year about
Yep.
this a couple of weeks ago, and
What kind of business? What kind of business?
it's a PR
Okay.
shop,
Okay.
and just the idea of sort of comfort with discomfort,
Yep.
like
Yep. Yes,
uh,
that's great. Yeah, comfort. That might be. You might have just had the log line for this episode. I like it.
I can't take credit for it. It actually comes from my kids' school. It's something they talk about, but they talk about with the kids, like if you're a parent and you don't have comfort with discomfort, your kid will never learn. Like if you swoop in and solve every challenge for them, they'll never learn to do it themselves. You need to like sit with that comfort in the discomfort of watching them fail and
man,
watching
that's
them
good to
learn to
hear.
do it again. And it's the same thing in business.
I'm struggling with the kids right now, so that's good. I'm going to take that home.
Yeah.
No, that's right. Comfort with discomfort, and you folks seem to espouse that, and you seem to find a lot of comfort. Again, one of the values is you find comfort in your community, and you've built a community. And I think that increasingly the community for the film production company is like nascent to nothing. And as much as we like, with our hire on demand, and we know the folks well, and we're chummy with them, but there's just something about being like right in those trenches that is, I mean, a lot of what we're doing with our software with Pipeline right now is like we decided in the middle of the summer to make a real pivot towards trying to become the hub for your production team, because you're really an outlier these days. And so many of the production companies are just in the digital space. And so, we wanted to be able to be like the place where you could come together with that sort of team as best as you possibly can. And we're still yet to roll everything out to see if that's going to work or not. But that was the idea. But you folks are really holding it together in a much.
Well, I feel like I need to fully disclose that, since COVID, like we haven't been in the office together, and this, Max, but for the millions of listeners out there, that we haven't been in the office since March of 20, and
so what about that? Like, okay, so that must really make it like where you wind up saying to yourself, well, I mean, geez, wow, wouldn't it be nice to, rip off the payroll tax and a few other of these big numbers and just, be paying these folks on demand, seeing as I'm not even really seeing them yet on these like annoying group Zoom calls and stuff like that. So how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge we are still trying to figure out and work through. I feel like it's very much unsettled, not just with us, but within the greater world, in general, like what work looks like, and where it happens, like for example, so we have some people like our animation team that have big hardware workstations that, they can't just pop in and like come to the office. Oh, I'll go home. I'll continue my work.
Which you own, right? I mean, those are the property of StoryFarm, but they've taken them home at this point.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. Right. We've set them all up with really nice,
that does make it tough to just dance on in, doesn't it?
Yeah. So that team's remote, and then the production team has to come in for shoots and stuff, and to, check gear, prep gear, all that kind of stuff. So they're using it, 2 or 3 days a week, but it's not like it used to be like a, it's
like a terminal.
10 to 5. It's a terminal. It's a glorified storage locker, with those tables. And it's a beautiful office.
Did you ever install any beer taps in the terminal?
No, but I
always wonder if that's a good idea or not. My guys did it, and I feel like productivity went through the floor.
Oh, we had a full bar. I mean, let's be serious. We definitely had a full situation. Our office is in the sanctuary of a church that was built in 1888. And so it's, it's this crazy big room with stained glass, and, everything is really old and cool. And we want an office with some sort of like agency style coolness to it. It has to have something special to it.
There's a reason. There you go. Right. See, again, I love that that's again, a very physical, I mean, I just, I grew up watching 30 something. Remember that show? And the dudes worked at a video production company, and they had this exposed brick. And I'm like, that's hilarious. that is what that is what I want. And that has always been my dream. And I still to this day have never had an office with it. Well, wait, no, I did. Down in Seattle, our office had exposed brick, and I love going down there.
Yeah. We got a lot of exposed brick in Baltimore. They
that's
exposed brick for sure.
And I mean, neon kind of went out of style, but I always wanted the neon on the exposed brick too.
Ooh,
but that's kind of 80s. But I'm an 80s guy. What can I say? I through and through. That's the music I want to hear. That. But again, you're talking about a physical space, not a coffee shop, not a Zoom thing, but a physical space and how it makes you feel. And isn't it? I'm pretty sure. I read the Wall Street Journal pretty regularly. I'm kind of a business head, and I'm pretty sure the jury's back on this one. And everyone says working together is actually a shit ton more productive in person if you can pull it off.
I'm not so sure. I don't know. I feel like in some ways, yes, right? Like definitely being around each other, especially when you're doing creative things. There's a mentorship and learning that happens when people are watching over each other's shoulder, edit, animate, all that kind of stuff. So that's definitely a loss. But like from, let's say, my perspective, which is like a lot of meetings and calls and stuff, you can stack up Zooms and get a whole lot more done in a day than you ever could press in the flesh, to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can have an hour meeting, everybody's in and out, you're moving the ball, things are moving. As opposed to like, let me drive from Baltimore to DC to meet with you in your office and come back. And like, I just lost 6 hours for a 40-minute meeting.
Well, that's the different part of it though. That's like sales meetings, right? I'm thinking of like just the work, the
work. And so, but so this is where my head's at with this thing. And tell me what you think of this, just sort of conceptually.
Yeah.
I believe that where it's trending and my sort of like defining idea, our lease is up in March. And so we're trying to figure out what's next, is that the office is not the place of the daily work. So like, it's not the place for people editing. It's not the place for people animating. It is, it's a place for collaboration. It's a place for meetings. It's a place for community building, social things, for client meetings, anything like that. But it's just not the place of the daily work.
Okay. Is it worth the rent then?
That's the question. And that's where we get and that's where it gets real wild. It gets really wild about thinking that, so like we're looking at new office space and we can build a castle, we could build a palace. But does anybody want to come? And so
is office space pretty cheap in Baltimore?
It's not that cheap. Like the options we're looking at to move away from where we are now are more than what we're paying.
Yeah.
And we'd have to build them out and stuff. They're like empty space. And as cool as that would be to like hire an architect and build out an office from scratch and like do it. Like, I have friends with tech companies who've done that and it's super cool. What if nobody wants to come?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. And I also wonder, like, I don't know. I mean, I'll want to talk to you in like a year and find out where you went with that, because, to me, it is all about working together and sort of like struggling over the edit together and just grabbing someone. It was always, I just loved being able to grab people and be like, hey, let's just go talk about this, or let's look at this video together.
Yeah.
And let's just kind of like, I don't know, there was something lost because that's kind of how we operated in the last few years. And I just feel like there was still something lost and not.
No, there's definitely something lost. Like, what you're like, we had a very strong company culture and people were, good friends with each other and, lifelong friendships have been formed at StoryFarm. And I'm not saying that's not happening anymore. I think it is, but it's just different. It feels loose, less cohesive. Like, I see people every month or two, not on Zoom.
But don't you feel like we all also need to get out of the house? I mean, it's like, I don't know. I've started coming back into the office like all day, and I run a software company. I can do it from anywhere, but I'm just
right.
Like, I gotta get.
I don't know. See, I've been out of the house forever. Like, so when I was a news reporter, I had to work every holiday, like every snowstorm, I'd be out in the snow walking around like a moron, like,
Right.
So I sort of missed like being Mr. Home guy.
Yeah.
And so I'm like nesting in my home office
Okay.
here.
All right. Well, tell me this. So one of the advantages that I felt like I lost when we went to a more decentralized was with the client in the pitch. And that was that, how do you, it always felt like a very strong hand to play to say, we got a little something different that we're doing here. And that is that we're all together and integrated, and we got a team that's going to be working on this for you. It's not, you truly are hiring a unit here. Do you feel like that's a major feather in your cap?
I do. And I think I honestly think that's the biggest, an advantage we have over a lot of competitors, and a part of our value proposition.
Yeah. Do you see the client respond to that in the pitch?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a cohesive team that is really, works well together, likes each other, is used to doing this thing. And because a lot of clients come in, what percentage of clients don't do video all the time, or it's a really big special thing for them, like a lot of them. And so they need to feel that sort of specialness reflected in the right vibe of the, interaction. And I feel like we do that really well. The Southwest Airlines CEO's line is, we're a customer service company that just happens to fly airplanes. And I kind of like that concept. We're a customer service company that just happens to make videos. I like that idea.
I mean, how do they, what is the advantage? Give me the sort of pitch. What do you say? Like, what's the advantage?
So, I mean, we have a dedicated team of producers that will be your primary point of contact throughout our project together. And that person will be dedicated to you in this project, and you go to them at any time, they'll get right back to you. And, because there are some other, companies or people I've come to understand that, are going in and out of their sets, and really, like a contractor juggling like 6 jobs, where you're just sort of like running from one thing to the next without really the backbone, administrative structure to really support the thing. And so I think that's what we really do have.
So it allows you to have more predictive scheduling, more predictive management of the projects and everything, because you own everyone's schedule, so to speak.
Yeah. And I think from the client's perspective, it's like, they really just have sort of a high touch customer treatment.
Yep, absolutely right, and it's an integrated experience all the way across. When basically you when you compare apples to apples, do the clients feel like, in the end, I mean, do you get a lot of feedback like, hey, that was a really different experience. We're used to working with, Bob, who hires out 17 different people.
We have heard that. We have a lot of business that's been coming to us for many years, and are friends with our staff, and they're
it's true that
following each other on Instagram and texting each other, and
business
that's great.
That's a great point. That actually is a killer point, that we think business comes to us through our BizDev guy. But actually it seeps in through the cracks. If you're running a good shop, it seeps in through the cracks of a lot of your folks, and they make relationships. Your producers make relationships, and all those relationships are pointing back to the mothership. They're not pointing to, oh, my cousin Lenny's got a production company too. He'll do it for you for half as much, and so forth. So you're really, that is, John, that's a
good one. You just, I just thought that sort of frames it a little bit differently, but you're right. Like, we have, a lot of our clients are following 3, 4, 5, 6 StoryFarm people's Instagrams, and just engaged in the, in the flow.
And I can tell you firsthand that when you are running decentralized, those gigs do go other places, because even though the producer works for you all the time, if someone comes to them and says, I've really only got, $20, and can you, well, I'll do it with this other team because they're willing to do it. And we all know that sometimes those $20 ones that we make allowances for and make room for, they can become great things. And so you're not just missing out on little things, you can miss out on very, very big things too. So it's just one of those things that is just a hidden positive aspect of this. I think everyone's just really quick these days to jump to the decentralized model. And I don't know, how do you do your data storage? Is your data storage decentralized now too, or
It's all at the office, and
okay.
we've got a server there, and then we just use tons of external drives
Of external drives that people are working off of? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So that's not too big of a pain point.
No, because that's one of the wonderful things that switched, right? Like back in the day, we were running Apple XSAN and everyone had to be in the office on fiber optic to be able to really share data. And so the decentralization of the data through small drives and using the proxy files and everything on Dropbox or however you might do it, it did make that decentralization of the workforce like way more viable for a production company. But it sounds like you're doing a little bit of both. Like you're doing some decentralized, but you also have your central servers, which we definitely had as well. But anyway, that I don't know. It's all really interesting, and I think that is your plan to. There's no plans to make any major changes with this, but keep on rolling with something that's good.
Yeah. It's funny. We've had some of our absolute best employees have gone on to freelance, and as we, have capacity issues or need help, we use our all-star alumni, as I like to call them, quite frequently. And we love those guys. And so, always love giving them work and working on projects with them and spending time with them. So it is really like a community.
How do you, okay, last question. I know we're kind of running along on time here, but I got two more. One is, how do you keep the love alive with you and Dan and Bo, and keeping that not only the friendship, but the sort of, how do you keep on listening to one another without, becoming sort of too set in your ways in any way?
It's interesting.
Because partnerships are tough. I mean, so many production companies fold because of bad partnerships.
Yeah. I mean, it just kind of works, I love those dudes. They're my brothers.
Well, that goes a long way. That goes a long way. What you're saying right there, and a lot of respect for them too. I know I've seen it. I've seen it. You also represent I would say you represent fairly different disciplines in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I mean, you share certain commonalities, but I
think. We're all doing different things. Like Bo's in production and Dan's in new biz, and I'm just sort of I'm in both of those.
Yeah,
and then
you're in strategy and
and trying to think what's next for the company and build the company.
You backed away from. I'm going to totally jump on a completely different topic. Just one quick second. Did you in fact back away from doing distribution?
We have. We hired someone at one point.
I remember we were all about this like 3 or 4 years ago. You and I were like, let's do distribution.
Yeah, we're like, they have to get it from someone that we just tell them, here's your video, good luck. Like that's not really great client service, right? But there's too many people to sell that to them. They don't want it from us, is my
okay, we won't even go there. That's a different topic. I'll call you up later. We'll talk about that. The last question is, how do you keep the love alive with everybody else when you do have to feed the beast sometimes? I would say that one of the advantages of the decentralized model was that for every job we were able to say, well, you take this or you don't take this. No big deal, right? If doing like this nonprofit video is not your gig and you only want to do the motorcycle videos, then that's cool. That's what we'll call you for. But when you're all in house, it's like, no, we're doing the nonprofit video. How does that work for you?
How do we keep the staff happy with sort of like the varied nature of the projects?
Well, not every project is that fucking sexy, right?
Totally.
How do you get through the non-sexy stuff together without everybody freaking out?
I think a part of it comes from the fact that we are not sort of like, I don't know, pardon the term, but like sort of like film school purists or something like that. Like we're not.
You guys have always really, I love that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we won a Peabody Award when we were in news and I was 30 and I felt like, we spiked the football and like, what else can we do? And so I'm not really, we view it as like an entrepreneurial business where we're trying to grow a business. And love telling stories with video. Absolutely loved it since I was a kid. But
so when you're hiring people, you make sure they understand that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And they'll if they don't understand it coming in, they will. When they're here. And that's not to say we don't want to do great stuff. Like I was going to say,
you guys produce some incredibly sexy work. Do not get me wrong. Go folks, look at the stuff that they're doing. And in fact, I was telling John before we got on the call that I don't know how long I've known you, 5 or 7 years, something like that. The work has just gotten so much more beautiful, high level. I'm sure you guys are doing budgets over $100,000 on a regular basis for stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, that's the dream. I mean, that is for many of us. You are walking and talking the dream, but there's still going to be the job that everyone's like,
here's a huge thing is like, to someone out there who is trying to, sort of build pieces around them is like, you don't have to be the smartest one in the room. You don't have to be the master of every discipline, all of these things that are happening around you. You just have to put the right people who are in the right seats in the right places. The elevation in the work you're talking about is really, I'm going to give a whole lot of credit to Andrew, our CCO, who, has just come in and really knows what he's doing across a ton of different disciplines and is, has a great head for business and is just a fantastic part of StoryFarm and has really helped us elevate everything. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. That is cool. And I think that once again, you just brought it all back home, to the idea of how, having that team, having Andrew right there in house, having your folks there to grow with you. I mean, it's a remarkably fulfilling thing, I'm sure.
Oh, it is. It is. I think of StoryFarm as like sort of a living, breathing thing. It has to, like every other living, breathing thing, it has to be cared for and you can't neglect it, know?
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And I really appreciate you joining us and sharing your tale with us. It's the same wonderful story that I've heard from you and Bo and Dan there for years. And I just kind of wanted to share it with my listeners because I love it so much. And I do think it's increasingly unique in our industry, but I think people need to hear that there's always another way to do it. And sometimes that way of doing it isn't the one that all the business books and the gurus tell you. It's just the way that your gut and your heart tell you to go and grow. And you guys have done it. So hats off to you. And I encourage our listeners to go look at the work because it's super worthy. It's really, really strong work. And to also just kind of think about different models that you might want to be taking on as you grow. So again, John, thanks very much. And hope we have you back again sometime soon because there's so many other topics that you and I could bust down.
Awesome. Really enjoyed it. Love to come back.
All right. Talk soon.